Verse 28. And Moses said, by this, in this event, you shall know that the Lord has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them on my own will. Now, the word own will means I did not do it from my heart. Now, understand, heart is mine, and mine is a will or my own choices. My own choice. I didn't decide on this on my own. So Moses is saying, I'm doing all these things because it is God who has sent me. I am not doing it on my own. And this word here, from my own heart, and every time you see the word heart, it's about will and choice. And so if these men die naturally like all men, meaning they will die when grow old and die, or if they are visited by the common fate of all men, meaning they went to war and they were killed, then the Lord has not sent me. Meaning if nothing really happens to these people, then it is proof enough to show you that God did not send me. Now, this word is very important. The word send here is shalak. This word in the Hebrew is one who is sent to represent the one in authority. And the authority of the one who sent is, well, I guess you can say delegated to the one sent. And so God sent Moses, and so Moses is shalach by God, and so Moses inherits or is empowered with the authority that God has given him to speak on his behalf. So you notice in the Israelite culture, no one dared to say, I speak on behalf of God, unless a person is truly speaking on behalf of God. Nobody will dare say, God told me this, unless God really told him that. And so Korah didn't say, but Korah is contending, I can be a kahuna too. No, I can be a priest. And Moses said, if nothing happens to you all, if everybody lives life as it is, then God has not sent me. That the authority I have is my self-invention. Now, here lies an important statement in Hebrew, which is difficult to translate in English. But if the Lord creates a new thing, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into the pit, then you will understand that these men have rejected the Lord. So let's break this down here. If God will fill or create, and then it says a new thing in the English, the word something that God makes. This is important. This word is about the same word bara, something that God made, and God is going to do something here. This is now let me just point out to you, this is an A. If the Lord creates a new thing, is an A. The earth opens its mouth and swallows them up, is a B. And they go down alive into the pit, is C. This is A, B, C, and the three statements actually says the same thing with an emphasis. That's all, right? There's an A, B, and C. So let's break this down. If the Lord will fill something that he has made, this is something new that God is going to make, and in this case, it will be a whole. right? And God is going to fill that hole, not create a hole. He's just creating a hole and he's going to fill that hole. That is something new. The hole isn't there. B, the earth, no, not the earth here, right? Let's make it clear is this, that the Adamah, the ground, will open up its mouth and then will swallow, right? Will swallow them up with all that belongs to them. That's B. So you notice the new thing that God is making is opening up the ground and then filling it in with something. And that word bara is to fill. So if the Lord will fill this new thing that he made, that means the Adamah is going to open up the mouth like a hole and swallow them up. So you can imagine the imagery. And now C, they would be Korah, Aviram, Dathan, the whole family will go down alive into the pit. What does it mean? It means this, they will go down, they will descend alive into the pit. Now it's called the pit, but I want you to know that this word is something that we know. It is Sheol. It is not just the pit. Understand that this is not a hole in the ground like 6 feet deep. This is actually the earth opening up, or the ground opening up, and is going all the way down beyond what man can dig. And that place is what the Hebrews imagine that Sheol will be. When anyone dies, they will go to Sheol. And so they are going alive into Sheol. Although it's translated as pit, it doesn't really mean the pit. I prefer to retain the word Sheol because it is not a little hole, not even the well that kept Joseph. It is a very deep, gaping mouth that the land opens up. So A, B, and C, God is filling the earth. That's what it means. And then you will understand. And the word understand is you will know. You have seen, right? You have seen and perceived. So you will know that these men have rejected. The word rejected is spurn, right? To blaspheme. I think blaspheme is a good word that we all are familiar with. Blaspheme. They have blasphemed the Lord. As you know, in the Bible, anyone who blasphemes God, God will destroy. And that's basically what happened. And so we have here the last portion for this afternoon, verse 31. And this was what happened as he, Moses, when he finished speaking, when he completed saying all these words, all these matters about Korah and what God is going to do, that the ground split apart under them. That would be Korah, Aviram, and Dathan, and the tents that is around them. So understand this. The ground, in this case, the Adamah, the word split apart is cause itself to, how should we say, break apart under them. So just think of it this way. It is the the ground cracking up, gaping hole, and only under them. And the consequence was this, that as the land, and notice the earth, the ground, they're all talking about the same thing, opened its mouth and swallowed them up with their household, with all the men of Korah, with all their goods. You can now say that this part here, this is A, the earth opened up, and this is B. So two verses actually both saying the same thing. And it repeats exactly what Moses had said in verses 28 to verses 30. And so now in verse 33, it says this. So they, and also those with them, went down. Again, went down is descend. They didn't walk down, right? They dropped down. So in this case, they dropped down. While they're still alive, they haven't died in the natural way. Because you see, Moses said this, if they die naturally like all men, then you find that all men will die anyways, right? The common fate of all men, they all die. If that is what is going to happen, then God has not shalak me. And so we are seeing they went down alive. They did not die. Now, of course, eventually they died. We can imagine. They dropped into the pit. Now, understand this. This word is Sheol. They dropped down into Sheol. Please retain the word Sheol. Don't look at it as a little hole in the ground. Then we will be thrown off. Right? We'll be thrown off. And then the earth. The earth is, again, this is the land, right? The land closed over them. The word closed over them is conceal. Is the word conceal them. So when the earth come back together and it comes back and the hole is no longer there, the word here is avad, and they perish. They avad. They are lost. And usually we see this word means that they are gone from the assembly. They are no longer around. They are lost. Now, did they die? Obviously, I think they did, right? Literally, they did. But the picture here is not to show that they died, but to show that they are gone. They are lost when the ground closed up on them. Verse 34 is the last verse we're going to cover today, because verse 35 in the Hebrew Bible starts chapter 17, and we'll carry on next week. So verse 34, it says, then all Israel, who is all Israel? All Israel is all 12 tribes, right? All 12 tribes who are around them fled. Now, the word fled was trying to run away, take flight, right? Take flight, run away. At their cry. What does that mean? It means when they were dropping into the ground, they were all calling out desperately. You know, their cry. Their cry means the sounds that they made, right? The sounds they made. And so they ran, and these people, all Israel, ran away, and they were crying, the sounds they made. And so when they were running, they called out, "Let's run away, lest the earth swallow us up also." And so they didn't quite understand, right, what this actually meant. So the word swallow here, the land, swallow us, engulf us, right? Engulf, just like engulfing them, us also. So this one tells us they were terrified. They were terrified. Now we come to this point, and just let me spend a few moments to recap what actually happened. There was a rebellion. The cousins came together as Levites. He thought that he too should be priests, not Aaron. But little did he realize that it was God who made the appointment. God's tabernacle, God's rules. Who he wants to serve him, he made the choice. God's rules. He returned the firstborn to Israel and set apart the Levites. God's rules. Korah was part of the Levite, but he wasn't happy enough. He wanted more. And so was Dathan and Abiram, rejecting the leadership of Moses. And that, who made Moses the ruler over them? God. And so, in short, chapter 16, verses 1 to 34, basically tells us that when one contends against what God has appointed, you are contending against God, and God considers them blasphemy, a contempt against God. Meaning you really don't care what God has said. You really don't care what God has decided. And if that's the case, then God doesn't really care what you think. And that's why the ground opened up. Instead of killing the entire congregation of Israel, Moses and Aaron appealed to God that you can't destroy everyone because of that one man, Korah. And so God says, fine. Tell them to stand aside. And God was going to show something. Now notice, everything that's happened up to verse 34 is visual. There is nothing secret. When God did something at Mount Sinai, the entire company of Israel saw and was terrified with the presence of God. Same here. When they saw what God did, they were all terrified. And it proved to them that Moses was shalach by God, right here. Shalach by God, because they did not die naturally like all men. So basically, what Moses said, and it happened. So Moses is a prophet that they are to fear because what he says come to pass. And that refers them or points them to the fact that Moses is a prophet who is speaking on behalf of God. If what Moses say doesn't happen, they don't really care about Moses. So in this case, God showed visually, clearly, how he dealt with such rebellion. And you notice there is no chance for Korah, Dathan, Abiram to say, oh, I'm sorry. And they, including all that belonged to them and their family and their children, were all part and parcel of the judgment of God. And the entire lineage is destroyed. That's what we have seen. Verse 35. What exactly did God do? Where the first part is that the men, that is Korah, Dathan, and Abiram and his family, all were swallowed into the ground. Then a fire came out from the Lord. Now, this is a very important statement. This is a fire, literally, right? There is no allegory here. Literally a fire. And so this is where you see God is a consuming fire. And it says it came out from the Lord. means that somewhere up there from the clouds, or as you can see, that is the Mishkan, and then we have the cloud that God, the glory of God that came out, and from there came fire. Now, what is this fire that we are talking about? This literally is flames that shoots out from the clouds, right? And it consumed. This word consume literally means eat. And so when fire burns the sacrifice, it represents God eating the sacrifice. When the fire came out from God, he ate 250 men who were offering incense, which means that God had rejected the incense. God had rejected the incense. And so God was not happy with their incense. 250 men all died. And with this, you should remember the phrase that God is a consuming fire. Because the judgment of God comes out with flames. Now, God doesn't do that all the time. Now, he did another time at the time of Elijah when he was challenging the 450 false prophet, the Hebrew prophets of Baal of the northern kingdom. And so God's consuming fire came down to show them that he accepted the sacrifice of Elijah. Now, in this case, God did not accept the offering incense, and so rejected the incense and consumed them all. All the acts that we see in Korah, Dathan, Aviram, and on, and the 250 people were instantly destroyed because of rebellion. There was no chance for them to repent. In God's mind, he was so angry that all of them has to be avad, lost. And to demonstrate to them clearly, and we'll see that next week, that this is a sign to show them God is a true and living God, and God is a consuming fire. And taking our colloquial expression, do not mine with God. And that would be the case. I hope this gives us a picture of the terrifying judgment of God. Now, it is very easy for us to gloss over this, like, no, oh, this is in the past. These are things and events that is etched in the minds of the Israelites. So I want us to really etch it into our minds so that when we read on from Numbers 16, that this is very real and vivid forever in our minds. I'm not sure how to do it, but I just want to emphasize to you that carrying on from chapter 16, this episode is terrifying. It's a nightmare, and it's there before their eyes, and they barely escape by the teeth of their themselves, and they wish they didn't see all this, but they cannot unsee this, the terror of God. And in so doing, cast upon their minds the terror of God's judgment. I just hope that this stays in our mind.